Hello. Today we're going to cover the checkbox. And the checkbox works very similar to the radio button. The only difference is that all checkboxes are independent. Each one is going to have its own variable. So on this example, we're going to have 3 checkboxes. And each checkbox has to be defined on its own. So here I have first checkbox, and it is defined. This one does not require the TTK prefix here. So you just have to write check button. And then the usual stuff, you're gonna insert that on the root window. Then you have to write down the text that will be displayed on the window. So in this case, it will be Magic Kingdom, the first one. And then you have to define 2 things, the on value and the off value. Usually you could go for 1 and 0. You get a 1 if the checkbox is selected, and you get a 0 if it remains unselected. And then you have to define a variable, but now it is a variable for each check button or checkbox. So I have park1, and I'm using an int. You could use a string, but because I'm using in order to use a string, I will have to put this inside of quotation marks. So that way I would use it as a string, but in this case, because it's either on or off, I'm just using 1 and 0. But you could as well just use the on value as on and the off value as off between quotation marks. And the variable is the one that's going to receive the actual value. Whenever this is selected, park1 will be equal to 1. If it is unselected, it'll be equal to 0. And each check button or checkbox has to have its own variable. So 3 check buttons, we have to define 3 variables. And each variable can be different. They don't all have to be, not required that all have to be int. They could be string or different kinds, depends on the kind of program that you want to do. So after that, the rest is pretty much the same as the radio button. In this case, it is independent because the user can select none. Perhaps they can select 1, they can select 2, any combination, or they can select the 3. So it's pretty much open to whatever the user wants to select. And after that is just using the get method. So I'm using the park1.get. Because it is already an int, I can just call the get method up here. If I had a string variable defined, I would have to convert that into an int if I want to do the operation. But in this particular case, I'm calling the park1 that get method, and that park is $154 a ticket. I'm making those up, and then park2.get is $122. So if the park1 is selected, it means that park1 is gonna return 1. So I'm gonna get 1 times 154. If it is unselected, it'll return a 0, the .get method. So it'll be 154 times 0. So pretty much you're just getting a 1 and a 0. All the values that are selected will return a 1, and that 1 will be multiplied by the price of the ticket. So 154, and it is selected, it'll be 1 times 122. And if the last one is unselected, it'll be plus 0 times 114. So that means that it's only making the calculations for the first two. And the last one will end up as a 0. The rest is the usual stuff. So you have to use the place method and the X and Y to position your check buttons or check boxes, sometimes known as check boxes. And once you do the calculations, I'm just gonna multiply by the number of tickets that it's obtained from this entry, the entry called tickets that get. So if they write, we want 4 tickets and we're selecting Magic Kingdom and Epcot. So it's gonna be 4 times. It'll be the equation is gonna do 4 and then times park 1 that get. So park 1 that get, this one is gonna return a 1 because it is selected, times 154 plus park 2 that get. So it's gonna be 1 because it is selected, times 122, and park 3 that get, in this case it's unselected, so it'll return 0. I'm using parentheses, but that's just the math side in me. So we're gonna do 0 times 1, 14, and at the end you're gonna multiply. This is gonna be 0, then 1 times 122, 1 times 54, and everything times 4 because we want 4 of each kind. And after that, total is gonna be assigned to this label, and it'll display the final or the total after the calculations. So if you know how to use the radio button, is like the radio button, but independent. The radio button is connected, so you just select one out of several options. Here, you can select several. So the only difference is that each one is gonna have its own variable, independent variables, independent behavior. If you select one, it doesn't do anything to the others. So right now, the idea is that we have been using a lot this, we have been building on the Pizza Planet code. So you can use that same code that you had before, but in the past, we have only selected the number of toppings. So it was a radio button with 1 topping, another radio button, 2 toppings, and another radio button with 3 toppings, but we didn't actually select the toppings. And if you selected 2, it was a single selection, and everything was based on that selection. Now we're gonna transition to the check button or check boxes. So you're gonna need 3 check boxes, and you are gonna need 3 variables. And now you're gonna either select one out of the 3 options, any, or you could select 2 or 3, and you're gonna do the same calculations, but now you have to base everything on the actual selection. So one selection is, each topping is gonna be $5 extra, just like before, but now give the user a chance to select the actual toppings. So you can use this video and then work on this activity. Thank you.